I drew all the time as a kid. Back then, I used to dream about being able to step into my drawings and explore the world within them. So I was really excited to hear that there's a drawing app that promises to do just that. But does it really work? Hey guys, welcome to Drawing with Abby, a channel where we discuss all things digital art. So if that's your thing, consider subscribing. Mental Canvas is a drawing app with a unique twist. Developed by a professor at Yale University, Mental Canvas believes that the act of creating digital art needs a shakeup. Instead of creating illustrations in flat 2D spaces, digital artists should be drawing in multi-planar 3D spaces. You can see the immediate benefit for this type of thinking for disciplines such as architectural drawings, concept art, and storyboarding. So I decided to take a closer look. Mental Canvas is available on iOS and Windows devices and offers a free version as well as a couple of paid versions. The paid versions lets you export videos without any watermarks and gives you access to things like publishing your work online. But beyond that, the feature list is actually pretty much the same. So I downloaded it on my Windows machine and I have some thoughts. I've broken this review down into 4 main areas: drawing experience, editing, 3D tools, and animation. So let's take a look. Right off the bat, I have to say the drawing experience in Mental Canvas is, unfortunately, pretty weak. We're presented with 5 main drawing brushes: pen, pencil, marker, calligraphy pen, and a paintbrush. All these brushes are pretty serviceable, but that's it. That's all you get, 5 brushes. Which would be okay if I can adjust the brushes in different ways like you could in other drawing apps, but the only adjustments you can make here are brush size and the opacity. The app does recognize the pressure sensitivity of your input device, so there's that, but you can't create or input new brushes. The experience here is more comparable to Windows Paint than something like Procreate or Clip Studio, so you have to manage your expectations. Color selection is decent, giving you a color wheel and an eyedropper tool. However, the big struggle for me was the eraser tool. You see, I rely on the eraser tool a lot as part of my sketching process, so I can lightly erase my line art and refine and build on my sketches. But the eraser tool available here is a hard edge eraser without the option for a soft edge or lower opacity. This severely limits how I can use the eraser tool and, as a consequence, how well I can draw within the app. The one saving grace for the drawing experience is the fact that you can import images into layers. So you can leverage a better drawing experience in a different platform and still make use of the 3D tools in Mental Canvas. But that's not exactly a winning argument for a drawing app when you have to look somewhere else for a decent drawing experience. Considering the poor drawing experience, I wasn't expecting too much for the editing tools within the app. And it's a mixed bag here. You won't find tools like blending modes for your layers or color adjustments, all of which I consider the basics of any drawing app. One bright spot is that Mental Canvas has a great quick select tool that allows you to select objects in your layer by quickly brushing over them. Once you have your selection, you can copy paste, delete, shift items, or move items to new layers. You can even manipulate your selected objects into 3D spaces, but more on that later. Layer management is pretty elegant. Layers are organized under canvases, kind of like layer groups and layers. This is very helpful to keep track of all the different elements in your composition. And trust me, it can quickly balloon into a lot of elements. All in all, Mental Canvas does have its bright spots with some of the editing tools, but it misses the marks with most of the fundamentals. Here's the secret sauce of Mental Canvas: the ability to assemble your drawings into 3D spaces. And I have to say, Mental Canvas does a great job of making those tools accessible and easy to use. When you first open up a project and start drawing, everything seems pretty familiar. However, when you select that project button, that's when things start becoming interesting. Here you have your main canvas view along with a second window that appears on your top left. This preview window shows you how your different layers are assembled in Z-space, meaning how they're stacked in 3D space. You can manipulate this by moving your mouse or touch input on the main canvas up and down. Then the preview window shows those changes in Z-space. You can also change the view of this second window from top down, side profile, isometric, or straight on, so you had a better sense of where your elements are sitting in your illustration. This is immensely helpful and made the experience of arranging your drawing in 3D space very easy to understand. And you're not just limited to Z-axis. You can arrange your elements in the Y or X axis with the help of the hinge tool, giving you the ability to add items to the floor, ceiling, or left-right walls of your drawing. Now with everything in place, you can rotate your camera view and almost magically, you can see your drawing has now come to life in 3D space. I have to tell you, it was a bit of a thrill to see my illustration in this way. This is where the potential of Mental Canvas really shines through. You can see where the creators of this app want to take digital illustrations, and I gotta say, it's pretty cool. Awesome. Now we have our illustrations assembled in 3D space just the way we like it. But how do we animate this whole thing? Well, Mental Canvas doesn't really allow you to animate elements in your drawing. Instead, you can keyframe camera positions by clicking on the View workspace. Here you have a timeline where you basically keyframe where your camera is located. You can't keyframe movement for any of the elements in your drawings. I mean, you can turn off and on the visibility of your objects with a separate visibility timeline, but that only gets you a pseudo sense of movement within the app. Yeah, I know. It's not great. The timeline itself can be manipulated by adding or reducing transitions between frames from as long as 8 seconds to as short as half a second. It's not as robust as having a full frame-by-frame control, but you can work with it to produce acceptable results. Once you have your timeline set up, you can export your illustration as a video in a variety of aspect ratios. You can also publish to the web for an online interactive experience where users can pan and tilt around your creation or follow along your animated camera experience. While the online experience is definitely cool, I also feel like it's a bit undercooked. It would be great if you can enable hotspot buttons in your illustrations, letting users click through different paths of your illustration, kind of like an art gallery version of Choose Your Own Adventure. As it is, the animation tools are decent, but not great. Mental Canvas is a great idea on paper. As I said, this is the kind of stuff most of us have dreamed about as kids. While it's fun and pretty wild to use the 3D camera, the rest of the app feels undercooked. The lackluster drawing experience practically forces you to draw your illustrations on other platforms, making it an extra step in your workflow instead of an integrated one. Which is fine, I guess, but even then the animation tools here are limited to just your camera. There were many times I was playing around with Mental Canvas and I thought to myself, I can do this in After Effects or Blender if I wanted to. But weirdly enough, that also speaks to the strength of the platform. I don't want to do this in After Effects or Blender. Trying to replicate the same experience in those tools requires much more effort and setup. Whereas in Mental Canvas, it's quite easy, and that might be because of how stripped down its features are. The other thought I have is, why do I need this? I mean, beyond the childhood fantasy. Now, if you're doing architectural illustrations or concept art, Mental Canvas is a no-brainer. The ability to zoom in and out of your illustrations and pan around corners, it gives your illustration a sense of scale and atmosphere that's difficult to achieve otherwise. It's a very useful tool for those disciplines. However, for myself, I was interested in Mental Canvas for storyboarding or creating cool interactive 3D comics, but Mental Canvas isn't really built for that. In the case of storyboards, you have to do your 3D sequence in one file project at a time, and then assemble it later on another platform. Again, making an extra step in your workflow rather than an integrated one. Is Mental Canvas worth that paid version? If you're a professional concept artist and you don't want to spend a lot of time on complicated compositing tools, then sure, maybe. But for the rest of us, I'm going to have to say no. The weak drawing experience and the lack of fundamental editing tools make this tough to recommend getting the paid version. That free version, though, that's a different story. I've bought into the vision that Mental Canvas has, and I think it's worth checking it out and seeing how fun it is to see your drawings come alive in these 3D spaces. Just prepare yourself to do your drawing in another app. This is a drawing app that is fairly new compared to some of the other players, so hopefully the creators behind it will continue to support the app and eventually improve the drawing tools so we can have that fully realized and fully integrated magical experience. So those are my thoughts on Mental Canvas. What do you guys think? Does the idea of creating 3D spaces with your drawings excite you? Let me know in the comments below. Also, there's a link to the free version in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it or subs if you want to see more. Until next time, keep drawing.